Before the story begins, I'd like to ask you to subscribe and like. This will help the channel grow. The Frost Market, Winter Detective Story. The first snowfall of December always changed the city's rhythm. In Valebrook, winter didn't arrive gently, it claimed space. Streets narrowed beneath white drifts, breath turned visible, and sound softened as if wrapped in cloth. The old quarter winter market had opened that morning, rows of wooden stalls glowing with lanterns, steam rising from mulled wine pots, bells chiming softly as people moved through the square. By nightfall, one stall stood empty. Detective Jonah Creel arrived just after police tape went up, his boots leaving clean impressions in snow that hadn't yet been trampled by crowds. The missing stall belonged to Elias Novak, a quiet vendor who sold antique winter goods, brass compasses, hand-carved tools, snow globes older than the buildings around them. Elias had been setting up every winter market for 15 years. That night he vanished. No sign of struggle. No broken locks. His stall stood perfectly arranged, lantern still lit, coins untouched in the open cash box. Only one thing was wrong. The merchandise was gone, all of it. Witnesses offered fragments. A woman recalled hearing a sled late at night. A security guard swore he saw steam rising from the ground near the stall, as if heat had been used to melt something beneath the snow. A child mentioned men wearing identical gray coats, like mirrors. Jonah knelt near the stall's back edge and brushed away fresh snow. Beneath it, the cobblestones were scorched black in a precise oval. Not fire damage. Chemical heat. Someone had removed the stall, and its owner, downward. The city maintenance maps confirmed it minutes later. An old service hatch lay directly beneath the market square, sealed decades ago, when underground storage tunnels were abandoned. Jonah straightened, cold creeping into his spine. This wasn't a disappearance. It was a transaction. And winter markets were only the surface. The tunnel smelled like rust, cold stone, and old money. Jonah descended carefully, flashlight beam cutting through drifting frost. The underground corridor stretched farther than city records suggested, reinforced with newer steel supports bolted into older brick. Someone had invested in this place recently. Crates lined the walls. Not random storage, curated inventory. Identical markings appeared on each container. A snowflake split into 3 sharp segments. Inside the first crate, Jonah found stolen goods reported missing over the past 3 winters. Rare winter art, collectible ornaments, historical cold weather equipment. All items that had quietly vanished from estates, museums, and closed markets. The pattern clicked. Someone was buying winter itself. A laptop recovered from a desk deeper inside revealed encrypted transactions labeled by temperature, not dates. -12 degrees C, Valebrook. -18 degrees C, Northbridge. Cities went dark, markets opened, and goods disappeared. Then Jonah found Elias Novak. Alive. Bound, but unharmed, seated beside a heater that hummed softly. His eyes widened when Jonah approached. "They said it was temporary," Elias whispered. "That winter makes people careless. That no one notices what's taken when they're cold." Elias explained everything. Buyers contacted him years ago, offering absurd sums for specific items, things no one else wanted. When he refused to expand, they took him with the stall. He was inventory now. Before Jonah could ask more, alarms pulsed through the tunnels. Red lights flickered to life, reflecting off frost-coated walls. Footsteps echoed. Many of them. Jonah drew his weapon, positioning himself between Elias and the approaching shadows. Above ground, snow continued to fall, silent and beautiful. Below, winter commerce was about to turn violent. The Frost Market was never truly closed. Even after the official stalls were dismantled and the garland switched off, The square retained a strange sense of activity, as if something beneath the snow still breathed. Detective Iris Calder felt it as she walked through the empty plaza before dawn, her boots echoing softly against frozen stone. The air smelled faintly of citrus peel, smoke, and iron, the lingering ghost of commerce. 3 disappearances. All vendors. All tied to the same section of the market. The spice seller. The antique clock restorer. The woman who sold hand-carved toys from the North Woods. Different goods. Same silence. Iris crouched near the spot where the antique stall had stood. The snow here was thinner, uneven. Melted once. Refrozen badly. Someone had been here after hours, heaters, generators, or bodies. She radioed for thermal imaging. The scan revealed a shape beneath the ground, long, rectangular, not deep enough to be infrastructure. A hidden cold cellar, old by the looks of it, predating the market entirely. Probably built decades ago, when winters were harsher and preservation meant survival. They forced the hatch open. Cold air surged up, like a breath held too long. Inside, shelves lined the walls. Empty crates, torn tarps, and markings on the floor, chalk lines, numbers, dates. Not storage. Accounting. What struck Iris hardest wasn't what was missing. It was what had been sorted. Certain goods, rare spices, antique mechanisms, encrypted phones disguised as ornaments, had been grouped together. Everything else discarded. This wasn't theft for resale. It was procurement. Footsteps echoed above. Iris killed her light. A man's voice drifted down through the hatch, calm, familiar. "Check again," he said. "Winter hides mistakes, but not forever." Deputy Market Supervisor Anton Weiss. The man in charge of permits, schedules, vendor placement. The man who decided who stood where. Iris understood then. The Frost Market wasn't a victim. It was a filter. Anton Weiss didn't run. He never intended to. He met Iris later that morning inside the municipal storage hall, steam rising from his coat as he removed his gloves with deliberate calm. Around them stood confiscated market crates, now evidence, now truth. "You think this is greed," Anton said. "It isn't. It's logistics." He explained everything without being asked. Every winter, shortages hit first at the edges of the city. Medicine, heating components, electronics needed to keep infrastructure alive. Official channels moved too slowly. Regulations strangled urgency. So Anton built something parallel. A winter market beneath a winter market. Vendors weren't chosen randomly. They were scouted, watched, tested. Those who noticed the quiet trades, the coded prices, the backroom requests, they were invited deeper. Those who refused were removed. "Removed where?" Iris asked. Anton looked away. "Sometimes, nowhere far enough." The missing vendors weren't killed for profit. They were silenced to protect a system already in motion. A supply chain invisible beneath snow, feeding the city while officials argued budgets. But one vendor had panicked, tried to expose it. That mistake had cracked the ice. As officers moved in, Anton finally showed emotion, not fear, but frustration. "You'll shut this down," he said. "And when the next blackout hits, when hospitals go dark, remember this moment." Iris watched him take it away, snow swirling through the open doors behind him. Winter always demands payment. The question is who decides the price. Anton Weiss didn't run. He never intended to. He met Iris later that morning inside the municipal storage hall, steam rising from his coat as he removed his gloves with deliberate calm. Around them stood confiscated market crates, now evidence, now truth. "You think this is greed," Anton said. "It isn't. It's logistics." He explained everything without being asked. Every winter, shortages hit first at the edges of the city. medicine, heating components, electronics needed to keep infrastructure alive. Official channels moved too slowly. Regulations strangled urgency. So Anton built something parallel. A winter market beneath a winter market. Vendors weren't chosen randomly. They were scouted, watched, tested. Those who noticed the quiet trades, the coded prices, the backroom requests, they were invited deeper. Those who refused were removed. Removed where? Iris asked. Anton looked away. Sometimes, nowhere far enough. The missing vendors weren't killed for profit. They were silenced to protect a system already in motion. A supply chain invisible beneath snow, feeding the city while officials argued budgets. But one vendor had panicked, tried to expose it. That mistake had cracked the ice. As officers moved in, Anton finally showed emotion, not fear, but frustration. "You'll shut this down," he said. "And when the next blackout hits, when hospitals go dark, remember this moment." Iris watched him take it away, snow swirling through the open doors behind him. Winter always demands payment. The question is who decides the price. The shutdown happened with frightening efficiency. Power to half the chamber dropped instantly. Emergency lights flickered on, bathing the frost market in a dull amber glow. Vendors didn't panic, they packed. Crates vanished behind sliding panels. Ledgers wiped themselves clean. This wasn't a black market scrambling to escape. This was an organization executing protocol. Ian backed toward the central pillar, mind racing. Someone had tipped the market off, but also tipped him. That meant the conspiracy wasn't unified anymore. Winter pressure was cracking it open. Gunshots echoed from the far tunnel. Police. Real police, not the redirected patrols Ian had been tracking for weeks. Someone high enough had finally lost control of the board. The woman in the fur coat leaned close. "You think shutting us down saves them?" she asked quietly. "When the grid fails again? When supply chains freeze? The city will beg for us." Ian met her eyes. "Then they'll beg out in the open." She laughed once, bitter. "Winter doesn't work that way." She disappeared into the smoke as officers flooded the chamber. Arrests followed. Crates were seized. Names surfaced. City officials resigned within hours. Emergency declarations were rewritten before dawn. By morning, headlines called it the Frost Market Scandal. But Ian knew better. At the edge of the frozen river that afternoon, he watched trucks distribute supplies freely for the first time all season. No price tags. No hidden lists. Just people helping people because the cold didn't care who deserved warmth. Winter didn't end. But for the first time, it wasn't being sold.